So it appears Google, Facebook, Apple, IBM got together and held a secret summit in which they discussed how they could better violate the privacy rights of their customers. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's not what they discussed how they could better protect the privacy rights of their customers. Right. So naturally, following this summit, many people are asking at what point have these big tech firms, which are routinely discriminatory toward people with right-leaning political views, and those are Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, ANCAPs, who routinely demonetize right-wingers on YouTube, who change the algorithms on Facebook so that right-leaning political views can't get any traction. At what point have these abusive tech firms become so big, so powerful, so monopolistic that the government should step in and take antitrust legislation? But of course, the irony is the very people who are the ones being discriminated against are the people who generally argue that private businesses are privately owned and they should be able to operate however they want with impunity from government intervention. These are the same people, these right-wingers, who would generally argue against government taking antitrust legislation. So what should be done? Well, if you look back 50 years and look at the big Fortune 500 companies, and then you look back 25 years at the big Fortune 500 companies, you'll see that the list has completely turned over. That it is made up of mostly new companies within that 25-year block. And then you look forward 25 years again, you look to today, and you see, again, the list has completely changed, that new companies have taken the mantle as the biggest 500 companies in America. I remember, for example, a couple of years back, people argued, oh my God, the government has to step in and do something about Walmart. How could anyone match their power and influence? Well, those people didn't see Amazon coming. The free market always corrects itself, and it will do so with Amazon one day as well. But what many people don't realize is that one of the primary ways that these big companies gain their immense power and are able to keep that power for extended periods of time are, once they get all that money, they invest it into politicians, into lobbyists, and the politicians create laws and regulations that create roadblocks to competitions and give these companies essentially artificial corporate government monopolies. So when I see these companies being abusive, the first thing I look at, or the first thing I think is, well, let's not go to antitrust legislation. Let's see what advantages these companies are artificially given by the government. So you do a little research and you come across the Communication Decency Act, which essentially allows internet service providers such as YouTube, such as Facebook, to act with impunity so that they can't be sued for things that third parties post on their platform. For example, if someone comes along and defames someone else's character, the person whose character that has been defamed, they can't sue YouTube for that. They can sue the third party that posted on YouTube, but YouTube is artificially protected by government legislation. They can't be sued for that. And this is the Communication Decency Act. So my solution would be to simply make an amendment to the Communication Decency Act. Because if these corporations are going to be given artificial government protection to allow them to be monopolies, well, we should hold them to higher standards. And if they can't be held to those standards, then don't break them up, just take away their artificial protection and see how quickly they fall. All legislators would have to do is add a one-line amendment to the Communication Decency Act, which reads that if internet providers want to continue to receive these artificial protections so that they can't be sued for what third parties post on their platforms, then they can engage in no political censorship, no censorship of free speech whatsoever. And then once that law is passed, these big tech platforms, they could continue to do what they've been doing if they want. They could censor people, libertarians, ANCAPs, conservatives. That's fine. That's up to them. That's their voluntary choice as a business. But if they do, they are not eligible for artificial government protections, and they then become responsible for what third parties post on their platforms. They'll get sued. It will hurt their bottom line. And because they won't want this to happen, because they value this artificial government protection, what will happen is, in order to get it, these big tech companies will volunteer to stop censoring political views they disagree with that are posted on their platforms, because doing so will be financially beneficial to them. And since the role of government is to represent the people, this would be appropriate legislation, as the current legislation gives artificial protection and allows for censorship. This one-line amendment would allow businesses to do whatever they want. It's completely voluntary. If you want to engage in censorship, my God, do it. You just don't get artificial protection. The businesses won't want that because it will kill their bottom line if they could be sued. So they will voluntarily decide to stop censoring people on their platform, and the entire problem is solved without the government taking any antitrust legislation. But if the solution truly is that simple, the question has to be asked: do legislators want to solve this problem? Or is the government partnering with corporations to subvert the First Amendment?